Chapter 14 of A Lucky Penny, by a Self-Made Man. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 14, in which Tom engages in a speculation in Boxwood. Mr. Rockwell did not fail to keep his word with respect to Dick Rogers. He found a suitable school at some little distance from Boston, where the lame boy would receive the best of care and a good education in the branches to which he aspired. Tom assured his little chum that he would call to see him as often as business permitted, and with that Dick was content. Garland gradually extended his travels in the interest of Mr. Rockwell until he covered the whole of New England. By this time, 6 months after he had been introduced into the business, he was pronounced by Mr. Small to be one of their most promising salesmen. His salary had been advanced voluntarily by Mr. Rockwell, and his commissions amounted to a very tidy sum right along. Tom did not smoke or use tobacco in any way, neither did he drink, though the temptation to do so was constantly before him. He was continually meeting other drummers with whom he naturally became acquainted, and his breezy, genial manner made him a great favorite, and invitations to assist in painting this or that town or city red were constant. But Tom believed it was not necessary to go to such extremes to have a good time. He liked to take it in the theater, but he invariably returned to his hotel when his show was over, and therefore he was in prime condition next morning to resume business. During his early days in the business he had had many opportunities of meeting with Miss Amy Dent, and their mutual admiration for one another developed into a warm friendship. Now that he was away from Boston for the greater part of the time, they maintained their relationship by frequent correspondence. Indeed, the truth of the lame boy's prophecy that Tom would, in time, learn to think more of Amy Dent than of his little chum seemed likely to be realized. Tom was now 18 years of age, with accounts in 3 savings banks aggregating about $1,800. One Sunday morning, when in Boston, he noticed an advertisement in the paper of suburban property for sale somewhere out beyond Jamaica Plains. The announcement interested him. "As I haven't anything to do today, I'll go out there and see what this property looks like," he said to himself at breakfast. And he went. The advertiser was a small farmer who had 20 acres of ground he wanted to sell very badly. He had been smitten with a speculative fever, and made one small fortune in investment, and was certain that if he could raise money enough he would soon become a millionaire. He asked $150 an acre for the ground as it stood. "I'll give you $2,500 for your property," said Tom after he looked it over. "Cash?" asked the owner. "Yes." The farmer, finding that Tom would not raise his bid, concluded to close with him, and accepted $10 deposit for a 24-hour option. Garland was due to dinner that afternoon at the Rockwell home. After the meal, Tom asked for a few minutes' private interview with Mr. Rockwell. Accordingly, Tom and his employer adjourned to the library. As soon as they were seated, the boy went into full particulars about the piece of property he wished to buy. "I should like to borrow about $700, Mr. Rockwell, in order to complete the purchase. Of course, I am aware that I cannot legally buy or own property in my own name, as I am a minor. Therefore, I should esteem it a favor if you would qualify as my guardian so that I can acquire this plot of ground, which I believe is worth a good deal more than I have been asked to pay for it." Mr. Rockwell thought favorably of the project and readily agreed to oblige the lad. So before Tom went away on his next trip, he was virtually the owner of the 20 acres of suburban ground. Garland still continued to have a great deal of faith in the good luck qualities of the bright little penny little May had given him. He had it rimmed with a golden hoop and attached to his watch chain as a charm, so that he might not lose it. 3 months later, Tom returned to Boston from an extended trip as far as Chicago. A day or two after, he had occasion to go down to Nahant on the shore of Massachusetts Bay, a bold promontory connected with the mainland by narrow ridges of sand and stone thrown up by the ocean, above which the highest point rises 150 feet. After transacting his business, he took a walk along the beach. At the extreme end, Tom found what appeared to be a huge pile of driftwood cast among the rocks of a little cove. There seemed to be cords and cords of it, mingled with various bits of iron and other wreckage. It was funny-looking wood, all sawed smooth in little slabs and blocks. Tom picked up a couple of pieces, and after examining them, slipped them into his pocket. Then he retraced his steps in time to catch a train for the city. That afternoon he casually showed the blocks of wood he had picked up on the Nahant beach to Mr. Small. "That's engraver's boxwood," said the manager. "Where did you pick it up?" Tom told him. "Is it of any value?" asked the boy. "I should say it is," replied Mr. Small. "I'd like to own a cord or two of it." That set Tom to thinking. He made it his business to call on a prominent wood engraver, to whom he showed the samples. "Have you got much of this?" was the inquiry. "I think I can put my hand on several cords of it." "What do you want for the lot? What are you willing to pay if I deliver it in Boston?" The engraver thought a moment and named a figure. "You will hear from me in a day or two," replied Tom in a non-committal way. As he didn't own the wood and wasn't sure he could even get possession of it, of course Garland couldn't make any definite arrangements with the engraver. But he saw a speculation ahead, one which struck him as being very profitable if he could engineer it through, and he was eager to round it up. So he made another trip to Nahant, and found that the bit of shore where the driftwood was piled was the property of one of the hotels which was closed for the season. The owner was also the proprietor of the American House in Boston. Straightway Tom returned and secured an interview with the hotel man. "I was down in Nahant today and noticed a big pile of driftwood along the beach at a point within the lines of your property. I should like to buy the wood if you would sell it cheap." "How much is there of it?" asked the astute hotel man, who presumed some small vessel had gone ashore at that point and broken up. "Maybe 5 or 6 cords," replied Tom. "Is that all? Well, you can have it for $10. Tom pretended to consider the figure, as if debating whether it was worth it to him. "I'll take it," he said finally, tendering a $10 bill. "Please give me a bill of sale for it, so I can show my authority for removing it from the beach." This was done, and the transaction concluded. Then Garland chartered a small sloop, and with the owner and his son sailed down to the beach. The day being fine and the water quite smooth, no difficulty was met in anchoring close inshore at the spot where the wood was piled up. Before dark, Tom had the whole of the boxwood transferred to the sloop. Then the anchor was hove up and the craft headed in for the city. "What do you expect to do with all this stuff?" asked the owner of the sloop, curiously pointing to the oddly shaped blocks of the turkey wood. "I expect to sell it," answered Tom. "It'll make very poor firewood," said the man. "It's hard as iron." "Oh, I don't think it'll be used as firewood," replied Tom with a smile. "What other use is it good for?" "It's good for drawing pictures on, for one thing." "You're making fun of me, aren't you?" protested the owner of the sloop. Tom assured him that he was not, but would make no further explanation. Next morning he brought the representative of the big engraving house down to the wharf where the sloop was moored. "There's my boxwood, the real turkey article. If you'll take the lot off my hands, it's yours for $2,500. Otherwise, I'll sell it out in smaller lots at a higher figure. That is, close to the market price," said Tom in a businesslike way. The man examined the wood carefully so he could obtain a pretty correct idea of its condition, and then offered $2,000. "No, sir, it's cheap at what I said, and you can make a good thing by taking it at my price. It's $2,500 and no sale." Tom was firm on this point, and in the end he and the engraver came to terms. A check was made out to Garland, who gave the purchaser a bill of sale for the sloop's cargo. Then Tom returned to the store, showed the check to Mr. Small, and told him the story of his little speculation in Boxwood. The manager was a most astonished man. "Well, Tom Garland, you're about as smart as they make 'em these days. If the hotel man ever hears of this, he'll have a fit." Tom thought so, too. "If it wasn't for my lucky pennies, sir." But the manager took him by the shoulders and gently forced him out of his office as if he didn't want to hear anything more about Tom's fetish. End of chapter 14.